Being a good GM requires consistency, endless preparation, and player appreciation. This is Confessions of a Frustrated Game Master.
Hello, welcome to Confessions of a Frustrated Game Master. I am Robert, the narrator, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Confessions. Well, this episode of Confessions, I wanted to discuss to GM screen or not to GM screen. That is the question. Whether or not you use a GM screen, some of the reasons GMs use them or don't use them, and have a nice little discussion about that. So what are some of the reasons GMs use screens? Well, because the GM screen's purpose is to provide convenient charts and rules references, and to maybe block players from seeing information that the game master does not want them to see, like what adventure the GM may be running, what NPCs or monsters they may be using. And one piece of information that the GM may want to block the other players from seeing, which may not be part of the normal usage of blocking NPC information and having a convenient rules references, is the GM wants to block the players from seeing them fudge. Yes, some GMs have a play style where they want to have more control over the narrative of the game. They are telling a particular style of story, and they don't want the dice to get in the way of telling that particular story. Now, that being said, there are some great GM practices that would prevent a game master from having to fudge the dice. One of those great practices is not asking for rolls if you are not willing to take the outcome of those rolls. So if you are telling a particular type of story where you don't want failure to derail it, then don't ask for rolls. So that's a little bit of a side and a little bit off the topic. But for GMs who are trying to tell a particular narrative, trying to tell a particular story, if you don't ask for rolls, then you may not have to fudge when those rolls fail. I know that I have played with players who prefer to have a good story over challenges, having their characters challenge and to have their characters fail. They would rather a good story be told at the table. And that definitely in the past has led to conflict, because I'm kind of weird as a game master. I like using a GM screen for the purposes that a GM screen is for, that makes the GM's life, my life as a game master easier, having convenient reference to charts and rules and the ability to block any NPC information from the players. But for the most part, I like the dice and fate to tell the story. When I'm at the game table, I'm not trying to tell a story or to make sure that a particular narrative comes across. I'm not completely dogmatic in that belief, because if I throw, for instance, if I throw filler content into a session or a campaign, sometimes I feel a little icky if player characters lose their lives in those filler or non-dramatic scenarios. So I'm not completely dogmatic about the idea of letting the dice fall where they may, but for the most part, when I sit down to GM, I'm not trying to tell a story, so I don't do a ton of fudging. Now, why are some of the reasons that GMs don't use GM screens? Well, one, they don't like them, and that could be because they want to feel closer to their players. They want to feel closer to the action and be right there. Maybe in order, if they are using a play mat, they want to be able to access that information and be right there in the thick of the action. That could be one of the reasons that a GM would not want to use a GM screen. Or on the complete opposite end of the spectrum of letting the dice fall, or being able to control the narrative that they're trying to tell, a GM doesn't use a GM screen because they want all of their players to see their dice rolls and see that fate is taking control of the narrative, and where the dice fall, that's where they are going to fall. So that is a lot closer to my play style, where the majority of the time, 95% of the time, 99% of the time, though I use a GM screen, I want the dice to fall where they lay. I am a adversarial GM who wants to challenge his or her players. And I believe in letting the dice, for the most part, fall where they lay. And though I like the convenience of having a GM screen for blocking information that I don't want my players to see, the GM screen is not there to protect my players from rolls or from the fate of where the narrative goes. So GMs who don't use screens, one of the reasons they may not use them is because they want their players to know that the GM is not interested in crafting a particular narrative or crafting a particular story. Wherever the dice fall, that's where they're going to fall. So that would be some of the reasons a GM would not use a GM screen. Of course, I never want to dictate or try to tell people how to have fun. Whatever works for you and your players and gets you the best results and the greatest time at the table is the way that you should roll, so to speak, if you will. And that it's important that everyone at the table have fun with whatever decision you go with a GM screen or without a GM screen. And so what do you do? Do you use a GM screen or do you stay away from GM screens? And whatever decision you make, why do you make that decision? Love to have the conversation in the comments below. And again, I like using a GM screen for the conveniences that a GM screen were meant to provide, but it's kind of weird. I also like to allow the dice to fall where they may. So I may be kind of weird in that respect, because I would think that most GMs who let the dice fall where they may will want the other players to know whatever I'm rolling, that's what's going to happen. So we are at the mercy of fate. So thanks for checking out this video. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever and whenever you are watching this video. Thanks for checking it out. Talk to you later.